Hi everyone, welcome to the product management topic. So today we are going to discuss about personas, one of the important aspects from the product management perspective. So let's get started. So we before going into the personas concept, let's quickly take a look at the product development process. There are lots of steps starting from defining the problem, finding the solutions, and delivering it to the actual end users. There are different steps, different process approach, which each of us can take it to deliver the end user effective, valuable solution which can help us as an organization, as a company, as an enterprise to achieve value and deliver effective, valuable solution to the customers, right? So within that, the today's topic, which we're going to discuss is about the personas and the roles. So let's quickly go through that. So before going into the personas, the assumptions is the user interviews were already done or already happened, which means who could be your actual end users. Once you define the problem, once you find the solution, and once you deliver, the interviews with the actual end users might have happened, and we might have already listed down the possible requirements or possible expectations from that end users. That is the prerequisite, or that is the assumption which we are going into the personas topic. Moving into personas, what is the personas is like it is a fictional character. It might not be the actual end user, but it will be the fictional character which will actually represent the end users who might use our product. Once we define, once we deliver, once we release it to the market, the actual end users who could be using the product or the solution will categorize them, will group them, will club them, and will define in the form of a fictional characters which will represent our actual end user group, right? So what the personas is like, they will convey the problems which the users will be expecting or which the users are facing, and what could be the key triggers for using the product which you are about to build. And it will be also capturing the rich high level information which might be required for us as a product owners, product management, or the business analyst to know what could be the actual features or the functionalities which we should be including into the product or the solution which we are about to develop, right? Or no need to include the unnecessary details which are not required from the understanding or defining the persona's perspective. As we go into the examples reference, we'll touch this point and we'll discuss about that as well. So for example, for today's topic, I took a online shopping as an example. It could be easy, relevant for each of us to go through, understand and relate as well. So I defined two personas. One is the Rose, the consumer, who will be actually making use of our app to place orders and get the items delivered. Whereas the second persona is John, who is the actual warehouse manager who handles all the deliveries, who handles all the items required to be delivered to the end users. So these are the two personas which I defined from on my own by taking an online shopping app as an example or as a reference. Okay, so let's take a look at what is the roles as a consumer's perspective is coming in the form of a persona versus what is the John as a warehouse manager perspective, the persona, what is the required details from his experience or from his requirement coming into context. So again, as I mentioned initially, the assumption is like the user interviews who could be the actual consumers or who could be the warehouse managers who will be taking care of the items or to handle the deliveries and get the deliveries to the actual customers might have already happened, and we have already captured all the required details and the necessary information from the actual end users. By taking that as a baseline, we have defined two personas. One is the Rose, the consumer, as the second is the John, the warehouse manager. So let's take a look at both the personas. To start with the Rose, The age is 35 years, roughly like a 35 years old lady, and the location is like Mumbai, Maharashtra, and India. The time as a typical customer, typical consumer, she could be spending 15 minutes of time in the any online shopping app, right? Why or what we will get to know. So as we start looking at the Rose perspective, right? So she's a working mom and she's having two kids of age 8 years and 5 years. Right? Both the kids are attending online classes, and she's also doing work from home, and because of which she is having busy schedules with both the office work as well as the kids online classes. Right. So what is her expectation is like she would like to receive the orders delivered on time, what are the orders which she placed on the online shopping app, so that she can focus on the work as well as the kids online classes. Okay, so this is the context of Rose as a consumer or as a customer, and a typical working mom with having multiple couple of kids and making them help with their online classes as well as balancing her work busy schedule as well. Right? So to go a step ahead, what is her additional aspects is should be able to place the order quickly in the app. So that is one of the requirement or the context coming from the rows or the actual customers whom the rows is representing, right? And she would like to place the order online rather calling someone and placing the order through phone, right? So that's the reason she would like to place the order online. And text is a preferred communication as she could be busy in her office meetings as well as the kids online classes, right? So she might not want to get an order, sorry, get a call or send an email to either receive or send the email or the call, or because of her busy schedules with the office meetings as well as the kids online classes. So again, the next point is like in the monsoon season, she's worried about the rains, which might delay the order delivery, right? So we know how the rains or the monsoon season of Mumbai comes, and at times it might be totally blocked with the roads, the city with the rains in the monsoon season. So she's a bit worried about that as well. And even though the COVID is reduced, the number of cases are reduced, so still many folks are still worried that too, especially she Rose being a mom of two kids, two young kids of 8 years and 5 years. So she want to make sure the delivery person is taking proper precautions regarding COVID-19. Right. So this is the persona or this is the required details from the rules as a consumer perspective, which we have captured from various user interviews and which we define in the form of a person. Okay, all the required details from the end user perspective, we have defined in the form of a persona, what all is relevant and what all is required for us to start with the understanding the end user perspective and to start with defining the features in the next steps. Moving ahead to the John, the warehouse manager, right? So maybe the location could be Thane, within the Mumbai or the near to Mumbai in the Maharashtra, India location. So age for John, the warehouse manager, age is not applicable because it is not relevant or not valid or not required in this context. That's the reason specifically age is not mentioned or not tracked or captured from the warehouse manager perspective. Okay. The same way, the time in the app is also not mentioned because as a warehouse manager, he might have to keep on constantly monitoring the orders he is receiving and the deliveries being happening. So the time in the app is not explicitly tracked or captured from the John, the warehouse manager perspective, right? So this is what initially we discussed. We should be capturing only the relevant details uh, which could be helpful for us to understand it and take it further. Okay. So moving into the John's perspective, so the John takes care of the warehouse which is used to deliver the customers' orders. Right. So We all know that when we place an order using any online shopping app, it might not be delivered directly from the shopping malls or the any grocery stores, but it could be from one of the nearby warehouse, right? So John is one of the warehouse manager where the items will be placed and the delivery will be the items will be packed and will be sent to the customers, right? So the John would like to make sure they have enough storage of the goods or the items so that the orders can be delivered in the shortest possible time to the customers. Right? So that's what any warehouse manager expects, right? So you want to be able to analyze or track how many items or what sort of items are regularly getting ordered so that he can have enough storage, enough items readily available so that as soon as the item is placed in the order, he can get it delivered to the end users. Right? And along with that, he would like to make sure to receive and deliver the third party vendor items as well to the customers, right? So again, they could like a lot of small business customers or small business users started selling their items, the household moms or household the small within the house, like they started preparing some items and they started selling it or using the online apps, right? So if that is the case, so once we do the integration with the third party vendors as well, so John as a warehouse manager, you want to make sure those third party vendor items as well is consolidated and will be delivered to the customers along with the items which the John is as a warehouse manager is responsible for delivering it to the actual users. Okay, so what is the John's perspective or what is the John's expectations from the app or from the online shopping app which we are preparing is he should be able to deliver or he should be able to track the items available in warehouse, right? So only then he will be able to know how we can fulfill the items or the orders which you receive from the customers, right? And then he should be able to analyze how many items and what items the customers are ordering on regular basis. Right. So that analytics also will help him to be prepared, to be ready with the number of items required and number of items to be able to uh, keep his warehouse ready. Right? And he would like to know if in case the order is received from any COVID-19 containment zone, right? So still there could be some containment zones within the country or within the cities. So if in case any order is explicitly coming from the COVID-19 containment zone or the locality, so John wants to, as a warehouse manager, he wants to be aware of it. So because before sending his delivery associates to that locations, he just want to make sure to take care of the things from his side, right? Then able to track the third party vendor items delivery status, right? So if John has to deliver the items to the actual customers, he need to be able to know when the third party vendor items will be received in his warehouse. Only then he can be able to deliver to the actual customer. So there could be multiple third party vendors which we might be associating with. So that information also should be made available for John. Then able to consolidate the orders from same locality or area for smoother and faster delivery, right? So let's suppose like we have a now we know that there are a lot of communities, lot of gated apartments or complexes are coming up. So let's suppose a apartment complex has like some 500 families, right? So on an average day, like they might be receiving some 100 items orders from that 500 families or 500 apartments, right? So he might be sending one or two delivery guys to make sure all the 100 items or all the 100 orders could be delivered to that 100 apartments or 100, within that community or the within that complex. Right. So these are the expectations from the warehouse manager perspective, right? So he would like to know or he would like to have a track or analysis of the information, all these things from his perspective, right? Now, have you got an idea like how Rose, the consumers expectations or perspectives versus John, the warehouse manager's perspective is entirely different. Right? So this is the reason we define these two personas as a key personas from our online shopping app, which we are about to develop or which we are about to start working upon. Right? Again, we might get a doubt or we might get a query: how many personas do we need to define? Is there any number? Is there any limit as such? There is no number or no limit or no fixed details as such. It is up to us what all the information is required and how all the personas could be helpful for us to understand the end user's perspective. Who are our actual end users? We can categorize them and accordingly we can define the personas as well based upon that information. Right? Now, if we have to add another personas, right? Or we can add the next person as like a delivery associate, right? And we can add one more persona is like the Rose, the consumer is like a working mom with two kids. Now we can define one more persona is like a the millennial guy who has enough time, who would like to play browse different apps or cross check or compare the prices or the deals, offers, discounts, and then they might be placing the orders, right? So like that we can define as many personas as required, which can help us to understand, to analyze the end user's expectations, and to proceed with the actual implementation perspective. Okay. And the main important point from personas is, which we need to remember is, it is not about the demographics, it is all about the problems and the challenges that people face, or which we as a organization or enterprise, which we have to understand, which we need to uh, uh, go through it before starting working on the implementation or the development of the application or the solution which we are working. So for example, if you see, there are two personas. If we take a look at the demographics, the same demographics, right? The male born in 1948, raised in UK, married twice, lives in Castle, wealthy and famous. So there are two different individuals are coming, or two different entirely contrast personalities are coming from the, if we just look only at the demographics or the unnecessary or irrelevant information as such, right? So we should focus on what is relevant, what is required information, what is the pointers which can help us to understand the end user's perspective and start working on the next steps. Okay, so what's the next steps? So now that we have the personas already defined, so the next steps could be like start analyzing it, start going through the personas and have a discussion within the teams, within the product owners, the business analyst, and with the architects, and should start working on defining the required personal features using the personas or the information we have, and prioritize the features using whatever the prioritization technique we would like to follow. We can prioritize it and we can start making use of it and hypothesize the solution or the application or the design which you want to implement as part of the MVP. First hypothesize and see whether we understood it. We defined the personas, we defined the features, and we have prioritized it. But before even starting with the development phase or the delivery phase, right? So we should be, anytime we should be doing a hypothesis, a validation or cross-checking to see whether we understood it correctly or not, right? So as part of the MVP, minimum viable product, we would be doing that hypothesis to cross-check our understanding is correct and it could be helpful to the end users. That's when we will start with the actual development phase. Okay. So that's a high level about the personas. And in the next topics, we'll start looking at some of the additional topics of the product management. Thanks, everyone. for taking your time in watching this video. Have a nice day.